Welcome to Podkey Slopcast, where always-on AI, private market chaos, and policy signals all collide.
A lot of AI still works like email with better branding. You say your piece, it disappears into the box, and eventually something comes back. Big claim now is that the interface itself is changing, and if that claim holds up, it could matter as much as the next model upgrade.
Thinking Machines says it trained interaction models from scratch for continuous time-aware exchanges instead of the usual turn-based token game where one side talks, stops, and waits.
The interesting part is the architecture split. One layer stays present in real time with the user, while a background model handles longer reasoning, browsing, and tool use.
That directly targets a real bottleneck in current systems. Most voice AI still acts like a single narrow pipe. It can't really listen and think and act at the same time in a natural way.
If the system is processing interaction in roughly 200 millisecond microturns, the promise is simultaneous listening and speaking, plus the ability to notice timing, hesitation, interruption, and context as they happen.
Confirmed fact here is the design claim and the demos around continuous behavior. What is still not settled is how well that survives outside staged settings, where latency, errors, and user tolerance become unforgiving very quickly.
And that's the real test. A proactive assistant sounds great until it interrupts at the wrong time, misreads a pause, or confidently acts on a half-formed thought. Presence is useful, but bad presence is worse than delay. The meeting demos make this concrete. One example showed a background agent updating a Kanban board during a stand-up while people kept talking.
You can see why that gets people excited. If an AI can stay in the room, track who committed to what, and quietly coordinate tools in parallel, meetings stop being pure overhead and start becoming execution layers. But there's a big gap between a useful note-taker and a live orchestration system that coordinates coding agents in real time. That second vision depends on reliability, permissioning, and a lot of trust in how the AI interprets ambiguous speech.
There's also a second-order effect people don't always mention. If the AI is always present and always acting, meetings may become more legible and productive, but also more surveilled, more formal, and less forgiving of exploratory talk.
So the upside is real-time coordination. The trade-off is that turning conversation into action on the fly changes what conversation feels like. There are also new benchmark ideas like TimeSpeak and QSpeak, which try to measure whether a model can speak or respond at the right moment, not just produce the right answer eventually. That matters because standard benchmarks miss timing. An assistant that reminds you to breathe 10 seconds late didn't fail on language, it failed on interaction.
The broader idea is an unlock index. Judge systems by how many genuinely new use cases they enable, not only by accuracy scores. I think that's directionally strong, with one caveat. Unlocking use cases can become marketing camouflage if nobody defines whether those use cases are robust, scalable, or economically valuable. A demo can unlock imagination long before it unlocks a business.
Still, this does point to a real shift in evaluation. If AI is moving from answer engine to collaborator, then timing, initiative, and multimodal awareness are not side quests, they're central capabilities. OpenAI's Deploy Co tells a different story about where value is getting captured. It's a separate company, backed by a $4 billion investment at a $10 billion pre-money valuation, built to pair OpenAI engineers with enterprise clients.
It also acquired Engineering Tomorrow, adding roughly 150 staff right away, and analysts expect more acquisitions.
The logic is pretty straightforward. Selling models is one business. Actually getting large companies to rewire workflows, governance, data access, and internal tools is another business, and often the harder one.
This is a signal that enterprise AI demand may be shifting from experimentation to implementation, but it's also a signal that the bottleneck isn't only intelligence, it's integration, labor, trust, and organizational change management.
If that's right, then the winners may not just be labs with the best frontier models, they may be the ones that can industrialize deployment without turning every customer into a custom consulting project forever.
On the private market side, Anthropic warned that all third-party SPVs claiming to sell its shares are void, and OpenAI made similar statements nullifying unauthorized stock transfers.
Reportedly, crypto-linked market prices for those exposures got cut in half almost overnight after the notices.
The immediate point is simple. Access to hot private AI names has created demand for synthetic or layered structures that can look like ownership without actually delivering the legal rights buyers assume they have. Legal experts are flagging ambiguity in those SPV chains, and that matters beyond these two companies. If regulators or courts start testing the structures, the damage may not be limited to one bad listing. It could reprice a whole grey market built on implied legitimacy. There's no need to overdramatize it yet, but the stronger argument here is that private market appetite outran legal clarity. When that happens, somebody eventually discovers what they actually bought. On regulation, Kevin Hassett initially floated an FDA-style approval process for advanced AI models, which immediately raised fears about slow approvals and bureaucratic drag. He then walked it back and said, no senior official supports a new AI regulatory agency, and that informal coordination between government and labs remains the approach. That reversal tells you something important. There is still no settled consensus on how formal AI oversight should be, and policymakers seem aware that heavy pre-approval could freeze deployment in a field moving at software speed. At the same time, informal coordination leaves its own questions. It can be faster and more adaptive, but it's less transparent and can privilege the biggest labs already inside the room. Then there's the US-China delegation signal. Trump brought Elon Musk, Tim Cook, and Dina Powell-McCormick to China, but not NVIDIA's Jensen Huang, despite his visibility in prior tech diplomacy. Observers read that omission as a possible sign that NVIDIA's AI chips may be off the table in upcoming negotiations, especially since no export licenses for H200 GPUs have been granted yet. That interpretation is plausible, but still inferential. Personnel choices can signal policy, but they don't equal policy. What we can say is that chips remain a core leverage point, and NVIDIA's absence stands out because of that context. One of the most grounded findings this week comes from KPMG, which analyzed 1.4 million workplace AI interactions and found that the highest impact users treated AI like a reasoning partner. They framed problems, iterated, and collaborated instead of firing off one-shot prompts and hoping for magic. That matches a lot of anecdotal experience, but the useful part is KPMG's claim that these behaviors are teachable at scale. If that holds up, then enterprise AI value isn't only a model procurement problem, it's a workflow training problem. Access matters, but user skill, prompt structure, and the habit of iterative reasoning matter too. And that loops back to everything else. Better interaction models may make collaboration feel more natural, but organizations still need to teach people how to collaborate with the machine in the first place. The through line here is that AI keeps moving from discrete tool to ambient participant, and every step in that direction creates new capability and new friction at the same time.
That's it for Podkey Slopcast. Back next time with more signal, less panic.
This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.